to Bentonville, Arkansas, working out of Chicago, Illinois, and living right now in Tampa, Florida. Not a doctor, but wish me well. My book, Diversity is Not Enough, was nominated for an NAACP Image Award, and I'll find out this week who I lose to, or if I win.
That's what I'm talking about. Wes, wishing you all the best, brother. Dr. Ryan Ross, my homeboy.
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Ryan Ross from Denver, Colorado. I serve as the president of the Urban Leadership Foundation of Colorado and the Chief Student Affairs Officer for the Colorado Community College System.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. Brother Jeff, also my homeboy from Denver, Colorado.
I want to say peace to everybody. My name is Brother Jeff. I'm the founder and executive director of Brother Jeff's Cultural Center, and I'm from 5 Points, Colorado.
Yes. That's what I'm talking about. And Reverend Stooks from my home church here in Charlotte, North Carolina, my man.
My name is Warren Stooks. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina, and mainly I do sports ministry. I started my own nonprofit, Stooks Sports Ministries.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, brother. And then last but not least, Mayor Mike Elliott, who I mentored. It must have been many, many years ago. Mike came to my office and we talked about how to climb the roles of leadership, and he's doing this thing there, man. Our next governor of Minnesota. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike Elliott, Mayor of Brooklyn Center. It's just an honor and a pleasure to be here. Absolutely. And I do remember that meeting we had, and you took me under your wings and really believed in me from a very early stage when not many other people did. So I appreciate you for that.
I appreciate what you're doing as well. Hey, Kara, Siobhan is trying to get in. Do you have her, excuse me, you guys, Siobhan was one of the teachers who's supposed to be on our panel. Do you have her information, Kara?
I'll go ahead and pull it. I don't see her, but I'll go ahead and try to let her in.
Okay. Can you guys give me 1 second? She just tried to call me. I'm sorry. 1 second, please. Never mind, she's in now. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. Siobhan, are you there? Siobhan, can you hear me? Okay, I know she's had some technological problems. She was getting going with her computer, but again, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining us. I'm going to get started here. We'll come back to Siobhan once she's on and ready. Just let me know, Siobhan. I want to start with our students. And Kennedy is a young lady who I've known she's been coming to workshops with her mom. It seems like I've been knowing Kennedy since she was a kindergartner. And she is an incredible leader at her school. And I want to start off, Kennedy, the subject tonight is about what can we do to keep those teachers in our system so we're not losing good folks. What are you seeing at your school? Are the teachers feeling burned out? Tell us what you're seeing and hearing.
Sometimes they do, but the kids sometimes don't respect the students, the teachers, or don't take school seriously. They make teachers mad on purpose, and some teachers, some kids think that the subject is boring, which makes them not trust the teacher or make it entertaining for other people.
Wow. Okay, that's very unfortunate. And Sienna, you're an awesome student there as well. I know my man Derek Harvey's doing a great job with you as a father. Tell us what you're seeing at your school.
I'm also seeing what she is.
Hey, Derek, you might want to mute yours when Sienna's talking because you guys are in the same room. So go ahead, Sienna.
I'm also seeing that in my school as well. Most of the students who don't find the subject interesting enough for them, or they don't take school seriously because either whatever's going on at home, they would purposefully try to act the fool in the classroom to get reaction out of most students. So they could either just leave the class and go somewhere else, or just to make the teacher upset.
Wow, that's so unfortunate. This is, you guys are you're hearing both of them say the word purpose. So we have students who are purposely making the lives of our educators very difficult, which is very unfortunate. So Kennedy, if you were to tell your students out there, if you were going to give them some advice in terms of what they should do to come to school to support your teachers better, what would you tell those kids out there who may be listening because you're a middle schooler, what would you tell those kids out there to make the lives of those teachers better?
Making the teachers feel like they're actually a person and not just like a robot or whatever. Like you can respect them and like actually show that you care about them, like by doing your work and actually listening when they're talking, and like having conversations with them, because it also boosts like your bond with them and makes the education better.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well said. And Sienna, what advice would you give to those high schoolers out there who are not taking care of business and making life tough for our teachers?
I would say acknowledge their hard work. Teachers do a lot of hard work. They stay after school, making sure that their lesson plans for the next day, help every individual student. So I would say always acknowledge their work and what they're doing. And I would also say, as well as Kennedy, talk to them, have conversation with them, build that student and teacher relationship trust. So if you're having a hard time with something, it'll be easier to ask.
Yeah. Well, you guys are some amazing students. We are in good hands with these two right here in terms of our future. Siobhan, can you hear me there? Siobhan, can you hear me? Okay, Siobhan.
Yes, I can hear you.
Hey, good evening, Siobhan. Thanks for joining us. Hey, can you just briefly introduce yourself to the audience here? Let them know where you're located.
Okay, hi, I'm Siobhan Walker, originally from Chicago, Illinois. I met Dr. Watson in Brooklyn Park, Minnesota, while I worked at Palmer Lake Elementary. I am now in North Carolina, in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and I happen to work in high school in Cumberland County.
So Siobhan was one of my superstar teacher assistants. She was just getting in the field at the time. And I want to start another question off of her, because she was one of my teachers who I felt were targeted sometimes, because the research shows over and over that for many of us, many of our educators who are teachers, being a teacher in itself is a tough job. You got to be a friend, you got to be a mentor, you got to be a coach, you got to be a nurse, you got to be everything, social work, you got to be a counselor. So teaching job is a very, very tough profession. Then you throw in being African-American now, where there's only about 7% of the teachers in the country are African-Americans. They're working in predominantly white environments. Those teachers typically become the advocates for the kids, the Black kids in those schools. And what that does is causes some dissension and rift between their colleagues, because now your colleagues are saying you're playing favoritism towards the Black kids, even though you're just simply advocating for them. Siobhan faced this when she was a staff member at my building. I had to go to bat to really support her. But Siobhan, tell them what some of the challenges you faced, because she ended up resigning not just from the school and the district, but she left the entire state and said, I'm going somewhere else totally different. So Siobhan, tell us about your experience, please.
My experience, after I did the test prep course that Dr. Watson had started, when I was hired on for the RTI associate educator position, I was helping the students that I knew. I knew a lot of these students from the community, and I met a lot of them in the school there. I would help the students, and then I would hear, then I would just feel uneasy. And it was mainly because somebody had gone behind my back to report me to the supervisor for helping the students, which was really weird to me. I later came to realize that they felt that I had unfairly gotten a position for being African American. Never mind the fact that I had an associate's degree and a bachelor's degree, and I had tons of experience in working with the students. And the students felt really comfortable working with me. Um, After that first year, I realized that the students' scores had risen, whether it was reading or math that I was helping them with. Their scores increased a couple of grade levels. And I still had the teachers who were angry at me for some reason. Yeah, so it was just really crazy. So when I decided to go back to school to earn a teaching degree, yeah, that was it, because I was like, okay, I'm going to North Carolina to enroll in the HBCU. and everything's going to be great. But it hasn't all been great. I just happen to be at a great school now. And if I was anywhere else in the district, I assumed that I would, I guess it's safe to say that I would probably have issues, but at the school I'm at now, it's really great because all of the staff members work together there. Um, and the students, although they're not so great, we have a lot of students who act out to get attention from the other students in the program. The administrative program, they are really they are really helpful. So when you call them with a problem, they're right on it, and you're able to reconference with those students later to explain to them what they did and why they're in the trouble that they're in. So it's a completely different environment at the school where I am now
That's
than
awesome.
the school, Palmer Lake Elementary, the school district where I was.
That's awesome. And I'm so glad that she's down here doing and didn't leave the profession because she's an excellent teacher as well. Dr. Jackson, you're down in Miami, Florida. Tell us how some of the, I mean, you just tell them the story you just told me about your colleague yesterday, man.
Oh goodness. It's gotten so bad to where one of my colleagues decided just Friday, he just told the kids, I'm not coming back. I'm retiring. And he retired yesterday. And I spoke to him and I said, what's going on? Why? He said, this is it. He was in the drop program, wanting to stay longer. He's been teaching 34 years and he wanted to stay. And there's just so much going on with student and behavior, testing, and everything that they're requiring of us, that he just said, I can't, it's too stressful. I can't do this. And that I'm seeing that a lot. Like teachers are just like, we came back from the pandemic. A lot of teachers just retired during the pandemic. They said, I'm not doing this anymore. Teachers who had decided to stay in, teachers who had decided to teach for another couple of years, another few years, veteran teachers. And then you've got teachers who decide, I don't even want to stay in for a year. After a year, I'm leaving. Wow. Because the requirements and student behavior, and we're underappreciated. It's just gotten so ridiculous. I've been teaching 23 years now, and I'm now feeling it. I think once I reach 21 years, it's like, wait a minute, everything has just changed. Things are just so different now. Yeah. And it's a major problem.
That's so unfortunate. So Dr. Jackson, if you were one of those folks who had a magic wand that can fix things for teachers, what would you tell people that they should be doing to really curb this great resignation that's taking place? What would be a solution that you would give?
I think we need to appreciate our teachers. Mm-hmm. I think we need to support our teachers. Mm-hmm. We're being bogged down with so much, mandates from this, mandates here and there. And it's like, wait a minute, meet us where we are. Like, we need to meet the students, first of all, where they are. Yeah. So don't try to tell me, okay, I need your third graders to be on level at the end of the year, but they're at kindergarten level right now. And it's like, wait, no, I can't, I'm going to do my part. But the stress and I think we really, really need to just support teachers, meet them where they are, and offer as much help as possible. I'm teacher, I'm, like we said, counselor, everything. I'm interventionist. It's like pulling from this resource, that resource. It's just too much.
Yeah.
And we need to listen to the teachers. We're the ones in the trenches. We're the ones teaching. We know our students. Yes. You got people who haven't been in the classroom for years telling us what we need to do. Yes. And it's just not working.
I love that. Very well said, Dr. Jackson. Hey, Siobhan Walker, what would be a solution that you would offer to others who may be on the outside making decisions for teachers? What would be a solution?
To get teacher input. Mm-hmm. To ask for teacher input when they are making these decisions up at the school board offices. Mm-hmm. They also need to get us more support in the classrooms. Right now, my English class has 30 students in it. In the co-op English class where I'm in to assist a teacher, I have to take 14 students out of the classroom to reteach the lesson to them. And it's just wild.
Yeah.
We also had a teacher to walk out. It was a teacher that I was instrumental in getting hired this school year. When he came in to the um, it wasn't a parent conference, but I can't think of the name of it. Um, for at the beginning of the year, he came in with his two nieces, and we were down an English teacher. So I took him to the English department where they found out his credentials. Um, the students were mean to him, yes, but the staff was not supportive to him also. With him being new to the profession, someone could have helped him out with lesson plans and just given instead of just giving him a lesson on lesson plans, they could have helped him out, been more assistive with him writing the lesson plans that were needed. Um, it's a lot when you're first coming in, and the education that you get in school, yes, it's helpful, yes, but it's not real world type things.
Yeah.
I mean, and it can be instrumental, but you do need the extra support. Our beginning teacher program here for the county was not assistive to him. It could have been a lot more assistive, and maybe he would have stayed. But and I know right now he is in school, and he does put some stuff like say on Canvas for the students, but yeah, he had no support, so he left.
That's unfortunate. I think I'm hearing from you, the two of you over and over again, is support the teachers. Let our teachers have a voice in some of this. So I'm going to go to our building administrators now. Start with Dr. Webb. You've been doing this. You've been in education for a long time. What are you seeing? You're in a large major urban district as well. What are you guys seeing in terms of teachers resigning, and how is it impacting the work you're doing, Dr. Webb?
Yes, I will echo some of the things that was already said about how teachers are feeling. But one of the biggest things I think is even looking at it as far as how we're dividing it, teachers, administrators. Like, I think we somewhere along the way have lost that we're all in this together and everybody plays a vital role. And how do we respect everyone's role so that we do what's best for children and families? And so I think that what's happening, some of the things from the pandemic, after the pandemic, coming back after being shut, having that shut down, there's been some complacency, which has then created kind of bad raps for some educators, which can then make educators feel unappreciated. And then also the pandemic also revealed how necessary educators are, how we do a lot, and how the school is a place not just to learn, but we provide that safe haven for a lot of children. So after going through that, I think sometimes you think, I deserve better, and how, like, I deserve more, and where's that recognition? And as well as just even when you think about the pay, and you have a lot of teachers, I have a lot of teachers who have a second job, who go somewhere and work somewhere else. So thinking about that, like, do I really want to leave every day drained and not feeling supported, or not feeling like I'm making a difference? Or do I want to leave and go elsewhere where I could probably make more money or the same amount of money and not have the amount of stress that I'm going through? So I think quality of life, and that I know self-care can become that buzzword, but I think people are really realizing what life is about and choosing their own happiness. And it's unfortunate that we can't get that. Well, some feel like they can't receive that being in the profession as an educator, because I truly believe that we could all be a team and work together in order to serve all children.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing that. And Dr. Bird, I'm gonna give you a doctorate for this night. I'm gonna give you a doctorate here. Dr. Bird, what are you seeing in Michigan there? You're in Flint?
So the school district that the founding principals actually in Centerline, Michigan, which is outside of Detroit, Warren, Sterling Heights area. So 95% of our students come from the Detroit school district. So just as everybody else, and as Sienna and Kennedy stated, the behavior of the students, I see it every day. So they're, they're correct. Some students come to school and they come for the social hour. As far as the resignations, fortunately, we haven't had maybe 2 resignations since our school opened. We opened during the pandemic. So when the pandemic started, I was opening the school. And I asked several times, are you sure we want to open this school, at this moment? And it was, yes, we do. We are going to open this school. So it was challenging that first year, because people did not know about the school. So it's new. It was a new thing. So maybe more than 50% of our teachers are within their first 3 years of teaching. Some teachers actually changed careers during the pandemic, which left some of those teachers not really doing any student teaching. So you're in an alternative program and you really missed out on that student teaching. So when we came back to in-person learning this year, I have 30 kids before me and I don't even know what to do.
Wow.
So that's a big hurdle that we had to jump at our school, when I realized, like, wait, hold on, you didn't even do student teaching.
Right.
And I had to step back and provide the experience and the support that they needed to make sure that they are successful, at the school with the scholars, because at the end of the day, it's about our students.
Absolutely. Very well said. I appreciate that. Dr. Starr in Atlanta, what are you guys seeing in Atlanta?
Yeah, so I echo a lot what others have stated. I come from a different perspective. I come from the social work perspective. I've been a social worker for the past 15 years. And so the reason why I actually started my school was due to the fact that we were getting a lot of concerns from parents and things of that nature, that teachers were actually leaving the profession as a whole. We've been seeing a lot more referrals in actually my school, and even some of the other smaller private schools in the area. A lot of students are coming from the public traditional school setting due to the overcrowdedness in schools, and they're wanting something smaller. And so ideally, just talking with some of the educators in regard to what's happening, of course, they're overwhelmed. And I look at it from from the perspective as a social worker, overworked, underpaid, and they have their own issues, their own things that they're battling and facing each and every day. And so for me to have to come in and meet mandates and things of that nature, it can be a lot. And so you're seeing anxiety levels rise due to the behaviors of, the scholars, due to just overall, just being in a global pandemic at this point. And so we're seeing a lot of educators turning and moving to other professions as a whole. And then also just, they're going to more smaller settings, where I don't want to say the mandate isn't as high, but all of the expectations in regard to, meeting this deadline and meeting this criteria and all of that, I'm not saying it's not a high priority, but it's more of a relaxing environment where they can actually breathe and still do the same thing that they've been called to do.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like teachers are being definitely overworked, but overly mandated as well. So Dr. Webb, quickly, what would be your solution as an administrator to kind of help teachers who are feeling overworked and kind of overwhelmed at this point?
Take something off their plate. Don't continue to add to it. I know that there's different expectations and a lot of expectations with the learning gap, the learning loss, but we have to take care of our teachers and make sure that they feel supported, and we have to lead by example. So we need to be in the classrooms. When they don't have someone to cover their specials, we need to go and do their specials so that they get their plan time, and just make sure we're supporting our teachers.
I love you getting a lot of nods from Dr. Burke there. Dr. Burke. What's your solution?
Yeah, exactly what Dr. Webb said, supporting the teachers, and we fill in, we sub. It was a point, of course, the pandemic is here. You have teachers that are out, whether they're exposed to COVID or whether they have COVID. So school has to continue. So that means that me as a leader and my deans, we have to step in when it's time for us to continue the teaching and learning in those classrooms. So yeah, we fill in, definitely supporting and providing that support for teachers, giving them actionable feedback so they know how I'm doing and not just coming in that once a quarter, but giving them that feedback weekly, what's happening in my classroom, how can I grow that teacher so that that teacher is able to grow the scholars in the classroom. And we often talk about the unfinished learning. Some of our students never even got learning. So it's more than just that unfinished learning. And then there's a whole social emotional piece that, many schools have not addressed that, definitely need to be implemented and part of the curriculum. But because of the mandate, the pressure from the state that you have to get these scores, that goes, that falls by the wayside in many of our school districts. So making sure that you support your teachers, that, you let your teachers know that you care. Just as I always tell my teachers that students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. The same goes for teachers as well. Our teachers, they don't care how much you know as an administrator. They need to know that you care and that you're there to support them. So we make sure that, we love on our teachers, we love on our staff, and we have those outings. Whether it was virtual, we had many virtual outings where we were on all night long, just, having a good time and having great conversations. And, we still have those things that happen monthly, with our staff so that they know we care and that we do love them.
I love it. I love it. Very well said. Dr. Starr, what solutions are you offering as a building administrator?
Yeah, I think I echo what Dr. Burke just indicated about the whole letting your teachers know and letting your staff know that you're there for them and that you're in there with them, fighting and advocating for them as well. But I think creating a safe space for our educators as well, our teachers, providing an opportunity for, like out here in Atlanta, SEL is a huge thing, right? And so I believe that we should provide those opportunities for our staff as well. What about a safe space for them to be able to receive group therapy or, some sort of resources and things of that nature to be able to assist them, incentives, just having resources for them, the same way we do with our students, and just holistically being able to serve them, because I believe if you take care of your people will take care of you. And so that's some of the things that we're definitely incorporating within Ladies of Favor Dream Academy. Because I'm in the private sector, I'm able to do, a lot of out of the box, unorthodox things, but that's one that I'm really big on, making sure that my teachers and my staff are taken care of, whether that's a self-care day, whether that's you taking a mental health day, or whatever that looks like for you, and providing resources for them so that they will be able to not just exist, but also thrive when they're in the classroom.
Love it. Very well said. So I'm gonna go to the parents now. Parents, I'm hearing over and over again, it's you all's kids who come to school causing problems. What message can you start with sharing with your kids, Dr. Gore? What can parents, because I know you're a great parent and doing great things with kids, but what message would you give to those parents out there who are having kids at school who are causing those problems, who are being deliberate and purposeful about causing those problems?
Great question, Dr. Watson. I believe that teaching starts at home first. We are our children's first teachers. I believe that every parent should be involved in the PTA, Parent Teacher Association. I think that every parent should be involved in what is going on at the school. COVID-19 introduced a new element to every school worldwide, right? But there were already many systemic problems in the school systems across the world before COVID-19 came. That just incited more anxiety, fear, depression for the teachers and the parents and the students, right? But I believe that parenting is critical, and it's crucial to the teacher having an easy way to teach the child. Parents need to, first of all, understand that School is not a babysitting organization. I really believe that. So many parents send their children to school. They have no clue what is going on because it eliminates them from being involved with the child at that particular time frame, however long the school day is. But I believe that if we gave parents report cards, are you involved in the PTA? Do you know what's on the calendar for your school? Do you know what homework your child is doing or receiving? I believe that parents should be held accountable for what's happening with each child. If they have multiple children at school, so be it. I believe that parenting is a necessity, and parents need to understand that the teacher is not the parent. So many parents send their children to school and put the weight of the world on the teacher, on the principal. And then when something goes wrong, when something goes awry, they get mad and they incite violence with the teacher or the principal or the social workers at the school. I'm involved at 4 schools. Why? Because I have 4 children in 4 different schools in Hillsborough County here in Florida. And I'm involved in the PTA at every single school. I believe that I have a voice in what happens with my child. I also believe in listening to what the teachers are saying, listening to what the principal is saying about the school environment. How can I be a better parent and allow the teacher to do her job easily, but I'm also parenting? I believe that is crucial in the times that we're living in now, that parents need to be parents. Yes. We need to do our part so that when our child is sent to school, they are behaving, they are sitting, they are listening, they are doing what they need to do so the teacher can do what she needs to do. Because every time the teacher stops and says, stop, little Johnny, stop, Sarah, stop, it's taken away from the instruction of the classroom setting. If parents are held accountable, I believe that we can move ahead together. PTA is necessary and parents need to do their jobs.
Very well said. Amen. You get a lot of amens and head nods to that right there as well. Next, I'm gonna go to Derek Harvey. Derek Harvey is a guy I've been teammates with. We've been friends for over 30 years, and I've watched him raise his son and see what he's doing with Sienna. I'm so proud of him. Derek, what message would you give to those? I mean, because oftentimes we say fathers aren't involved. You've been an involved father, man. What would you tell those fathers out there to make sure that they're carrying the role and doing their part and make sure the kids are going to school and taking care of business?
Well, first, I think fathers need to understand that I view my parental role as being my child's first teacher. So I'm an active believer in I have to teach that child how to behave prior to going into school. I need to teach that child ABCs, the numbers, how to tie their shoe, how to have social skills, how to communicate with their peers as well as with the teachers and staff of the school. So I believe that teaching starts at home first, and us fathers have to be the leaders of our household and have to not just, lead by saying, well, hey, you do this, you do that. You got to lead by example. So we know kids follow our actions, they mimic our behavior, and we have to be held accountable on what we actually letting our children see based on social media, television, things of that nature. And I wear different hats. I'm a father first, of course. I'm a social worker by work trade, and I'm also a high school football coach. So parents have to be actively involved in the school. You have to be at the parent-teacher conferences. You have to go to the open houses. You got to meet the teachers. You also have to really know your children. You have to know what your kids can and won't do when they're not with you. Yeah. So understanding your child is one of the most important things to do, because my oldest son was different than my daughter. My daughter's different than my youngest daughter. My oldest son is different than my youngest son. So you have to know each of your children's characteristics, their personalities, and you have to apply that on how you discipline them according to how they behave and what works for them. Yeah. As a social worker, I believe you have to get wraparound services involved to help support the teachers and administrators. Here in Akron, Ohio, we have had different agencies from mental health as well as behavioral health in our elementary schools and our middle schools and our high schools. So you have to put that support around the family and those wraparound services. Once you do that, you support the teachers because you allow them to talk to little Johnny in that classroom when he's misbehaving. But we know is a reason why he's misbehaving. Maybe he was homeless. He didn't eat last night. I've seen a lot of that come up in the last, I would say, 10 years since I've been working in Akron Public Schools here in Ohio. So we have to address some of those needs of our children to support our teachers and be there for them to be able to communicate the needs and wants of the children and what they need us as social workers to address in order for that education process to continue in the classroom without any issues or problems. Because we all know that children do act out, but there's a reason why.
That's right.
And as a coach, you have to be actively involved with your students' education process. And like I said, you have to be hands-on. You can't not show up at that school just for practice. You have to sometimes take some time to get up in there and see how your student athletes are acting in the classroom. And you have to, like right now, we have a group thread that I started with all our position coaches. Get to know your student athletes outside of the football field. Get to know them, let them get to know you, but also spend time in that classroom to see how they act and also address those issues when it's not right. And be upfront and honest with these young men, because in the next 4 years, when they get out of high school, it's get real. Nobody's looking at IEPs. Nobody's looking at your mental health history. They're looking at you and how you behave and what you know on how to act. So my whole message is get involved, be involved, have a voice, and be able to communicate that in an effective manner, because effective communication is the key. And that's what I do with my case management, with my students I serve, effective communication. So that's my message.
I love it. And what we've heard between the two of you, you got to get involved, parents. I mean, you're talking about Dr. Gore has kids at 4 different schools. She manages to be involved. Dr. Harvey, he's out there getting it in schools, coach, he's a social worker as well. You got to get involved for your kids' sake. But we also know when things don't take care, when things break down at home, it also impacts our community greatly. So I want to come to next, Dr. Ryan Ross.
Dr. Watson, may I interject?
Yes.
We know that many of these parents, more than 2/3 of them, are not going to come to that school. They're not going to be involved. And we as teachers, as educators, we just got to accept that. We got to accept that the ones that are going to come to the school, their child is involved in a sports activity, and that's why they're coming to the school. I dealt with 3 young men today. One of the young men that I dealt with, I met him because he's on my caseload, and I met him during the pandemic. At the beginning of the pandemic, when I met him, he transferred in during the middle of the year. So after the year had already started, he said, "Okay, Miss Walker, you're going to be my school mom." I said, "Okay, and I'm going to be your school mom. And I'm going to get you when you're not doing well. I'm going to get you when you're doing well. And I'm going to, I'm going to be there." I have another student. Oh, he mouthed off to me today and he got sent to ISS. He came back and told me, "Miss Walker, did you call my mom?" I said, "Yes, I texted your mom." He said, "Okay, Miss Walker, I'm so sorry." I said, "You got to learn how to get it together after, somebody says it's over with, because I'm going to give you a little bit. But once I say it's over with, that means get to work."
Yeah.
Okay. So he said, "Okay, Miss Walker, I'm sorry. I'm going to do better. I'm in ISS for 2 more days. Just send me to work. I'm going to get all the work done. Please text my mom and let her know that I came to apologize." I had another student, another young man. Um, Cell phones are a big thing in our school, and they'll put you on cell phone suspension. But I have another student who had a cell phone, and he curses involuntarily. He'll use the N word. He calls me bruh all day. I have to tell him I'm not your bruh. He curses other students out. It's just unnoticeable. He doesn't recognize it, but I call his attention to it. He got sent out today by the teacher, by the regular ed teacher, and he got 2 days of in school suspension also. I already had the lesson prepared for them to work on. I got videos and everything for them to work to collaborate on the lesson. So I told them both that you got to do this lesson. You two work together. You get it done. He was in the hallway having an issue with his girlfriend, and he was spazzing out. And I grabbed him and I told him, "You can't spaz out right here. Like not like this. Not right now." I said, "Do you see her commanding officer? He's gonna write her up." I said, she's going to get in big trouble because you tripping out with her. I said, you can wait to do this. He said, "Miss Walker, can I go to the bathroom?" I said, "Go in the bathroom, wash your face, and then come back out here and talk to me." And when I talked to him for a little while, and then I made him say that he was okay so I could leave. And when I walked back through the hallway, he said, "Miss Walker, thank you.
Wow. Ms.
Thank
Walker,
you."
you know what the thing I've hearing from you is going above and beyond despite the parents not being there, but you going above and beyond. I really appreciate that as well. Hey, I got to move on to Dr. Ross real quick, so to make sure that we get to these other panelists as well. Dr. Ross, you guys also know that when there's a breakdown at home, it impacts the community greatly. So 2 questions. What are you seeing and what are the solutions from the community from where your standpoint is? Because you work with leaders out there every day.
Yeah, thank you. I just real quick, I just have to say that this is an epidemic. This isn't something that's just happening now because of COVID, right? When you think about Brown versus the Board of Education and loss of 38,000 teachers who were displaced, who weren't paid right? This has been an issue that's been ongoing for a really long time, and we have to look at the origin of the issue to really address and support teachers in a really profound way. In terms of what we're seeing from a community perspective, I mean, I'm speaking about Colorado, we're seeing an influx of, just some violence in the community. We're seeing an influx of some shootings. We're seeing some students who, want to be engaged and aren't being engaged. And sometimes that's, for a variety of reasons. But I think that there's a lot of pressure on teachers right now to be a doctor, to be a therapist, to be an educator, to be all of these things. And, and I'm speaking to the choir when I say that, but when we talk about solutions, it's really important that we're looking at these public-private partnerships and engaging the community around how we can support our educators and our teachers. And I think that, it may sound like it's one more thing for teachers to do, but I think we have to look, teachers and those who are in those buildings have to look out and connect with people in the community so we can know how to support them, right? And so whether that's raising funds for a mental health day for them, whether it's we had a school here and they, in addition to what they're dealing with, they're trying to fight to create Black history curriculum in the schools, right? And so one of the barriers is books. We know that they cost $75,000. And so, some of us got together and created $15,000 seed money to get them going, just to say, hey, we believe in you, we support you, and here's how we are stepping up to support you in doing that. I think that, from a policy perspective, there's some solution opportunities there. Community members and teachers have to engage and get together and look at how to leverage state funding to provide opportunities to increase salaries or provide incentives or additional professional development dollars or other things, right? Like if you're a teacher and you live in a certain area, you teach in that area, here's a big incentive to live in that area, right? And there's, $50,000 off your home, right? If the cost of your home goes down by $50,000, that offsets some of your income, right? Like, so it's really some of that innovative thinking outside of the box and finding elected officials to champion some of this stuff and to run these bills. And then I think the last thing I'll say in the interest of time is we have to really support our teachers and our principals, especially Black principals who are in buildings. The school districts need to know that these principals, these teachers are supported by people in the community so they can actually focus on doing the work and not be bothered by some of the challenges that sometimes come at the district level. They need to know that the community is there to wrap our arms around them and support them. And, and then test scores, right? Like one of the things that I find troubling is teachers aren't getting credit for the growth that they're making in individual students, right? So if you got a student who's in 6th grade who comes in at a 2nd grade level, and this teacher gets him or her to a 5th grade level, but they don't do well in the 6th grade standards, that student and that teacher didn't fail. That student increased 3 grade levels in 6 months, or whatever the case might be, right? So it's re-looking and reimagining what success is, and we have to individualize some of this stuff. We can't keep grouping students by score and type and you know, in this herd mentality. So I'll stop there because I know there's a lot more, a lot of other people who have to speak.
Very well said. I appreciate that. Brother Jeff, you're on the front row there. What are you seeing, and what are the solutions to supporting our teachers? Can't hear you, Brother Jeff. Let me.
There we go. First, I want to say, Dr. Watson, it's amazing to watch your growth, development, and all that you're creating, and it's wonderful to be with all of you. I'm looking at, it looks like Eleanor Coleman right there, and I want to just ask your permission to speak openly, because I don't really know the environment. I don't know who's watching, but I do want to say something, and I want to get permission.
Absolutely.
First of all, Dr. Ross mentioned about origins, and I want to go back to some of those origins and say that, you know, Dr. Neely Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything else is going to confuse you. And when I'm looking at what we have here compiled, this at one particular time looked like the composite of our schools. Going into a school building would have looked like this, it would have felt like this, it would have related to what's inside that building. And it was amazing. You know, listening to Dr. Gore, I just loved everything that she was saying, and all of you are saying, but the parenting part is huge. I would take it another step and say it's time for us as a community to be parents of our community, not just parents of our household. We are being dictated to, told how to, and all of these mandates are coming from places that are probably not even a part of our culture. So until we get back control of our communities and parent our communities, we're going to be under the guise of foundations and business folks and everybody that has taken our public dollars and privatized it for profit. Everything that you all are saying, and I'll wrap this up, it's amazing here in Denver to hear this is what white women are saying right now. Everything that you're saying about education, and you know that these buildings are dominated primarily with white women. When you open with that statistic of 7%, I'm hearing white women saying everything that you all as Black educators are saying, which tells me you have been going through this for a long time before they start feeling the pressures of what they're going through right now. And so in terms of solutions, I think it is high time to put educators in charge of education and not business folks who have earned a lot of money and have figured out how to subsidize other people's educations and bringing in all of these individuals that are doing something in down economies. We should take hold of our communities, our educational systems, and put teachers, or at least educators, at the forefront of education and not the business interests that are, you know, parceling out education and creating a market. But I'll close by saying I appreciate each and every one of you all for what you're doing. And I know that you're doing it individually and you're isolated, but this is probably what we need as a community also, of teachers to come together and say, you know what, sometimes we just need a space to breathe and say, what is it like being dominated in a system that, you know, is not even as great as what we can produce, but stifles that production. It breaks my heart to hear Siobhan say she was being investigated because she was helping students. Yeah. I mean, the solution is to let teachers teach and get these mandates, and everything that you're saying is absolutely true. I think there's a larger voice now in the system that is saying exactly what you're saying, and there's a moment to capitalize on it to take education to another level and get it out of the grips of those who are not educators.
Yeah, very well said, Brother Jeff. I really appreciate that as well. You know, so now we start moving to the faith community. What's the role of the faith community in terms of offering solutions to those families and teachers as well? Reverend Stoops.
Good evening, everyone. Really enjoyed your comments this evening, and really from a faith community standpoint, Dr. Watson, you and I talked about this the other day. I really feel that the faith community has been sitting on its hands, especially the African American community. From the standpoint, we're used in being spoiled to parishioners coming to us or people coming to us rather than going to the schools. Me personally, yes, I'm a minister, but I've always felt an evangelistic type of ministry, and so I've done that through sports. And so, Brother Harvey, I can definitely resonate with you. And I've always been intentional about going to the schools, and I've always had an open door policy to any school that I go into because they know I care. Number one, but I'm not just there for the student athletes and the coaches. I see the pain in the principals. Especially in the Charlotte area, I have a lot of African American women principals, and I can see the struggle that they go through, and getting the right people in the building and making sure that, as some have said already, having those wraparound services. So in short, we as the faith community need to go into the schools and find out what they need, ask what they need. And not that it has to come from you, but be able to point to those that can give those resources. A few things I struggle with, honestly, is a lot of the African American churches, they'll serve and they'll be there, but a lot of them don't have the budgets to actually give if they need to give, schools. So sometimes you have, a lot of the Anglo-Saxon churches coming in, and there's a disconnect in, yes, I can provide food. Yes, I can do something for a teacher work day, this, that, and the third, but they're not able to resonate with some of the things that the teachers and administrators are going through. And for me, with the faith community, we got to recognize there are a lot of spiritual issues going on in the schools that the faith community needs to help with. I personally have dealt with a lot of death of student athletes, coaches, administrators, teachers, and so on. And that is a spiritual issue, and there's certain things, a school counselor, not denigrating what they do, but there's only so far they can go. So I really feel that you have to be intentional with the faith community to bring those right people in and let them minister as they need to. But again, to have the right people on board. And for me, I'm very intentional about going into these schools, understanding, as so many have said, like Sister Gore. I mean, I'm married with 4 kids, in 3 different schools. So I'm very intentional. 2 boys and that are in high school at separate high schools because I got to put them in the right setting, and twin daughters that are right at middle school, all will be in high school next year. So being very intentional about where I put my kids to be successful, but understanding that teachers have a suitcase too. They have issues that they're dealing with, and before they even get to teach, let's face it, especially in the middle school and the high school, they're dealing with behavior, whether they're gathering in the cafeteria, whether they're gathering in the gymnasium, whatever the case might be. I mean, real talk, kids, a lot of kids are fighting like cats and dogs. Yeah. And even another issue I see in the schools, because I'm also in the schools, I took a job to be with my oldest son who has special needs. There's so much grief going on, and we're not really dealing with those issues. And when people are be the top asset that they need, and I see a lot of teachers being burned out because they're asked to do 175,000 jobs. Yeah. They're not just teaching; they're doing a lot of different things. And as I admire a lot of administrators on this call because they're going in and actually, going to classes. And I've seen a lot of my athletic directors that I serve and assistant principals in my urban schools actually go in and teach classes. I know they don't want to, but they're doing it. They have to. But in short, the community has to be intentional. To answer the question.
Awesome. Appreciate that, Reverend. Next, I'm going to go to Mayor Mike Elliott. Mayor Elliott, you when you start talking about impact, you're talking about you're in charge of entire city. And Reverend Stoops mentioned grief. You're talking about a city where you guys are still trying to heal from the loss of a young man who was killed by a police officer. And you still got to deal with issues in the city and the community and deal with the schools as well. What are you seeing, and what's the solution you're offering to support our teachers out there as well?
Thank you. So much of what's been said already, resonates with me so deeply. One of the things that I want to lift up is there was a study done in 2018, and this study found, the title of it is Police Killings of Unarmed Black Americans Affect Mental Health of Black Community. And this is really important for us to really, understand. I think we all understand it on a very visceral, deep, intuitive level. But the research shows that a national survey of nearly 40,000 Black Americans who were interviewed within 3 months following at least one death of a Black American at the hands of police in their state. And they found that the police killings of unarmed Black Americans were associated with worse mental health among other Black Americans in the United States in the general population. We know this, but the studies now have shown it, right? And really what that equated to was about 55 million more poor mental health days every year among Black Americans in the United States. 55 million more poor mental health days for the Black community because of police killings. And to contextualize that, the effects of worse mental health days for Black Americans for diabetes is about 75 million more poor mental health days. So really, it's almost equivalent to the effect of diabetes on our community. So it's a real problem, right? And then the study also asked white Americans, surveyed them as well, and found that there was no deterioration of mental health in relation to the killing of Black people by police, right? So this is disproportionately affecting our community. So when I look at the more recent killing of Amir Locke, young, handsome African-American young man who was doing nothing but sleeping, woke up in the morning and was executed by the Minneapolis police. And I think about a young kid who has to go to school that next week, all of that next 3 months. Me as an adult, that has such a visceral impact on me. And it did affect my mental health. What about these young kids that are watching these police killings? And if a young Dante Wright is watching an Amir Locke being killed in his sleep, the next time he's pulled over by the police, what is he going to do? Is he going to try and get away? And we have to think about this fight or flight mechanisms, right? If he's seeing an execution of somebody look just like him for doing nothing but sleeping, the next time a police officer pulls him over, is this flight trigger going to trigger for him to try and get away and get to safety? So this is having a real impact on us. So we're having our young people go to school and it's hard to concentrate, it's hard to focus because they're traumatized. Our teachers are traumatized, watching, these high profile killings as well. I do agree with Dr. Ross. In fact, I've thought about this. I think that Black teachers need to have, and teachers who serve communities of students and families that require more support need to have a higher compensation for that. We need to just make sure that they are being paid an additional $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year, because they're having to serve not only, to deliver the traditional educational content, but also to serve as therapists and other types of support, helping families get connected to resources. So this is incredibly important. The other thing I want to just say too is that economic stability is incredibly important at home for the kids to be able to have that stability in housing in order to be able to do well in school. I think we as a community, we have to now start thinking about economic ownership collectively as well. How do we start to make sure that communities are owning the communities that they live in, so that that does transfer to better, more stable housing, right? Because if the community owns it collectively, perhaps it's not just about a profit incentive, perhaps it's about making sure that families can stay in their homes and try to keep off some of the gentrification and displacement that we see in these communities. A lot of the students, are in a school here, they're in another school 3 months from now or 6 months from now because they're having to move around because of housing issues, right? So those are some of the things that I would say is really we need to focus on compensating teachers, especially Black teachers, for the additional work that they have to do to provide support. We have to also focus on the economic stability and economic ownership of our communities in general as well. So those are a couple of things that I would say. Of course, we are in Brooklyn Center. We passed arguably the most transformative public safety policy, comprehensive policy in the nation, where we're creating a community response team that's going to take a lot of these calls that go to 911 and not have police go, but have a team of community people that are mental health professionals, social workers, perhaps even a paramedic, to be able to go to these calls that come in that don't require somebody with a gun to respond. We're also putting together a civilian traffic enforcement team so that for some of these parking calls or some of these calls involving an accident, we'll have a group of civilians that are going that you don't need an armed officer. We're also looking at these pretextual stops because we know that all of these pretextual stops really affect the mental health of our community as well. It's terrifying, right? And all of that, it reverberates through our school system as well. If the kids are home, they're in a stressful environment because mom and dad got pulled over as well. And, they're on their way to work. That affects their work. It affects the kids at home. So we're taking a comprehensive approach. And part of that is going to be looking at economic security. How are we using the city's resources to promote better housing options? One of the things we're looking at is a universal basic income program, where we're going to take a certain number of families for 2 years, and every month we're going to give them an additional $500 a month, no questions asked, right? So these are some of the things that we have to do, and we just really have to get to it. We got a lot of work to do, and this is exactly the type of conversation we need to be having in our community.
Absolutely. Very, very well said, Mayor Mike Elliott. You need to make sure you hook up with Dr. Ross and Brother Jeff there as well, for sure. Now, I'm gonna go to Brother Keith. We're gonna come to the audience in just a moment here. Brother Keith, you're with Walmart. You guys are one of the largest employers in the whole wide world. What are you guys seeing in terms of being impacted, when things take place in the schools, and what solutions can you guys offer as employers?
Yeah, great question. First of all, I want to thank all the educators as well as the parents on this call, because I am who I am and I am where I am because of teachers and parents who believed in me and pushed me forward. Walmart, and not just Walmart, I think all businesses, have the opportunity to have a part in this effort. Every organization, Fortune 500, has a government relations organization that goes from the federal government to local government. And we need to leverage our voice, our influence, and our advocacy on matters that are important to teachers. That's just something we have to do. Walmart's the largest employer in the United States, and we need to leverage those voices, and we are, but it needs to be a collective. When I think about at the lowest level, 90% of America is within 10 miles of a Walmart store. And so I challenge our 4,700 stores to work with schools to host teacher appreciation events, to help teachers, with educational efforts. In Chicago, we're taking a bunch of kids to various museums, the Sabo Museum and what have you. But those are low-hanging fruit. What we are doing, which is a little bit unique, is realizing that internally we have to really make up for an infrastructure that hasn't necessarily supported our community and our associates. And so Walmart has done two things that you may or may not be aware of. One is called Live Better University. And what that is for any Walmart associate that is part-time or full-time, Walmart will pay 100% of their college education for online courses at up to 14 universities. And I'll just give you some names: University of Florida, University of Denver, where is that? Bellevue University, but also Spelman, Morehouse, North Carolina A&T, for associates up to bachelor's degrees, and actually encourage them to, if their passion is to teach, come to Walmart, get a free education. and then go teach. One of the biggest hindrances to education in the Black community is lack of access to college because of capital. And here we're offering that free of charge. The other thing that we do is we open up over 200 what we call Walmart Academies about 5 years ago. And this is because we saw kids coming out of high schools not adequately prepared to really thrive in a workforce. And so we're supplementing those types of opportunities, but not only to the kids, to the community. Right now, there are 24 online courses that are free to anyone in this country at Walmart Academies. And you can actually find it by just going to communityacademy.walmart.com. And so we're trying to come at it from 3 or 4 different ways. I think corporations do play a major role in this, mostly in advocacy and influence and using their voice. And so it's not a scapegoat. We have to do better. We have to do more.
I love it. Man, those are great solutions and offerings via Walmart. Now, if I go work at Walmart, would y'all knock off some of my debt from undergrad?
No, we can't do that. But if you want to go back and get another degree, hey, you can be a cashier and we can make that happen.
That's what I'm talking about. Appreciate your voice, Brother Keith. So now we're going to move to our superintendents. Then we're going to go to the audience. You guys, audience members, you can feel free to just either put it in the chat or either raise your hand. You can ask questions of any of our panelists, but I'm going to go to our last 2 panelists. Dr. Roby, you're leading a large district there as well. What are you seeing and what solutions are you offering to the teachers and educators in your arena who are dealing with this burnout and causing resignations?
And so what I will say is that the teacher crisis is not new. I think the pandemic has heightened and made it more aware. If you look back from 2006 to present day, we have about 70% decline in those enrolling in the teaching profession. And so if you think about for the last 14 or so years, we've had fewer teachers, fewer candidates going into the profession. And then as teachers age out due to retirement and other opportunities, this has been a crisis that has been in the making. I think COVID has only exemplified it and made it kind of like the perfect storm. Sure. And then when you think about like, what are we doing to address it? Because I'm taking a systems-wide approach, and I think that's what we need to do. It's like, it can't just be, individual. It has to be a systems-wide approach of attack, and that includes meeting with local legislators. So and I know that we have folks across this call who are from different states. It's like, explain the legislative priorities around establishing teacher recruitment, retention, and development. And that means grow your own programs. And that includes grow your own programs for current staff members who are within the teaching or who are in school settings, whether they be paraprofessionals, secretaries, teacher assistants, bus drivers. So the adults that are currently in our systems, as a way to kind of provide some supports for them, and then also grow your own programs for high school students to see that teaching is a viable experience, offer more flexibility for teachers switching from one state to another. And what people may not realize, within our 50 states, every state has a Department of Education, and within that, every state has different requirements for teacher licensure. So going from Michigan, where I currently live, to a different state, I might have different licensure requirements, but even though I'm certified and licensed in the state of Michigan, I might have to take additional courses, including undergraduate courses, to receive a license in a different state. So I think that that's something that needs to be addressed. Other ideas around retention, making sure that we provide, and I've heard this repeatedly through different panelists, supports for our teachers, our current educators in our system, whether that be financial, with appropriate salaries. If you think about where the starting salaries for teachers are for other professions, it's $30,000 to $40,000 difference. And making sure that we have, if we want to treat teaching as a profession, which I know, and I'm stating it is a profession, we need to make sure that it is comparable to other salaries. Also, those who are entering the teaching profession, loan forgiveness, tuition reimbursement, grants, paid internships. This is an archaic system in education. I don't know if people realize this. Student teaching is an unpaid internship. And so what that means is that you are working in a student teaching experience where you are teaching scholars, you're working very closely with them, but it's unpaid. And so that means that those folks who are going to school, they're paying tuition at their local universities and colleges. They also have to, they're not paid for their time. So either loan forgiveness and not make it the complicated 10-year kind of process for loan forgiveness, but something where if you are going into the profession, you have loan forgiveness, funds to support those who get additional licensures. So for science, special education, those areas that are highly underfunded, we need to have those resources and support. And then, just other things of including, and so I know we're talking about teachers, but we have an issue, a crisis in our community with bus drivers, custodial staff, food service, and so making sure that we have full wraparound services and supports with them. In the state of Michigan, our governor has something before the legislature where every educator will get a $2,000 increase in pay automatically, no matter what you are doing in the field of education for the next 3 years if you stay within the same district. And I think that's really remarkable because it speaks to the work that we are doing. It's not just about educating students, it's that full wraparound service, social emotional supports, confidence building, relationship building. And so I think if we are really serious about turning the tide around getting educators back into the profession or encouraging people to stay in the profession, we have to, one, acknowledge that we have not done right by our educators.
Very, very well said. And I appreciate you leading the way you're leading, Dr. Roby, as well. Next, a good friend of mine, Eleanor Coleman's been friends. Dr. Coleman's been friends of mine for a long time, former assistant superintendent in Minneapolis, but she's also had the privilege of leading and seeing some of that private partnership there as well. Dr. Coleman, what's the solution to what we're seeing and hearing here this evening? Can't hear you, Dr. Coleman.
Thank you, Tommy. Dr. Watson. I just want to thank all the participants, particularly our students. And I think what we've demonstrated here tonight with this conversation is it's a multi-tiered approach. There is no one solution, and there's no one entity that's to blame. As Leandra said, this is a systems issue. And I think we need to start thinking about it from that perspective. The work that we do with some incredible educators in Omaha is trying to do what we lost as a community. There is a wonderful book by Vanessa Siddle Walker. I want to encourage everyone to read it. It's The Lost, I'm trying to find the name of it now because I lost it. But what she says, and it's stuck with me ever since I read her book, it's The Lost Education of Horace Tate. And it talks about what we lost with integration, Brown versus Brown. And what we lost, two things, aspiration and advocacy. We started this session tonight, Tommy, with you telling your story. The reason why you're Dr. Tommy Watson today is because of aspiration and advocacy. You had people who believed in you, who supported you, and who advocated for you. And this is so critical right now. I know we're talking at different levels around the classroom, but this is a systems issue. And, even for our faith-based community, when I'm the senior person, I'm sure, on this call by a lot, over 40 plus years in education, in and out of it, and being raised myself in segregated America, I can tell you what I see. I see an intentional act to destroy public education. And I don't know that we're paying attention to those signs. When you have white parents that can go into a school board meeting who don't even have kids in there and demand that critical race theory is not taught because it embarrasses their children or makes them sad. And then you have legislators supporting that. They're using their power. They're using their voice. 70% of the kids in our urban schools are African-American. Where is our voice? Where is our faith-based community? The faith-based community has always led and moved things forward for us. And I think we're not bringing to fore why we're losing our kids and understanding that this is intentional systemic racism at play. And we've got to start talking about it and not looking at, who's doing it and who's not doing this and who's not doing that. We have to look at this big picture of what's happening to us, the breakdown of the family. All of this is very intentional, and we have to start to educate ourselves about this and get into places. I look at the school board meetings and like, where are we? Yes, we're supporting our kids and we're doing this but we have to address the power source at play and start to break down those barriers. I think this whole idea of aspiration and advocacy is across the board. It's what we do with the work that we're doing in Omaha is really trying to inspire teachers, keep them motivated. I get tickled sometimes when I say, well, we have to be social workers now, we have to be all of this. We were always that. That's what Black teachers, and if you talk to any Black educator that's in their 70s like me, they can tell you that's how we saw ourselves. We never saw ourselves as just a classroom teacher. It was always about how we do wrap around with our children. So I think we need to, other than blowing up the system, which I really think the system needs to be blown up, I think we need to start really educating ourselves and educating our communities and stop looking at each other as who's the fault and who's the blame and who's not doing what, and all of that. But understanding their powers at play, how do we come together as a community and start to fight for our children? We are losing our children. We're losing them to the streets. We just lost a 15-year-old in Minneapolis the other day, a young man by all means who did everything that he was supposed to do to be successful in his life. Shot, killed by some white guy. We don't know the reason or rationale behind that yet. This is just coming out. But we're losing our children. And that's my biggest fear here. What about the children? I love educators. I have the most admiration in the world for educators and what you're going through, but we're losing our children. So what are we going to do about that? We've got to get back to that. They're our future. That's our legacy, these babies. And yes, they're acting out, but we need to understand, why are they acting out? And what can we do to help support them?
Yes. Very, very well said, Dr. Coleman. I really appreciate those words. Panel, this has absolutely been an amazing panel. I think you guys have dropped some amazing nuggets on our audience. I want to now open it up for our participants out there. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Anita Lane or Kara Braxton will call on you. But if anyone from the audience has a question, any panelists, you want to comment on what you've heard so far, any panelists at all? You guys have been amazing. This has been amazing just to sit here and kind of watch this as well. But if you have a question, feel free to raise your hand, participants. If any panelists want to comment on anything that you heard or has been said, feel free.
We have one more on the panel. I'm sorry, Julie, did you want to add anything to the discussion tonight?
Good counsel, yes. Julie, good afternoon, good evening. Julie, you there? Maybe she stepped away. Judy, when you come back, let us know. Raise your hand. We'll get you in the conversation as well. Any comments or questions from the audience members out there? I can't see the chat box. Any questions or anything? Judy says she can't speak. Okay. Judy, appreciate you being here this evening. Okay. Kara, Anita, you guys see any hands up out there?
Dr. Watson, this is Keith. I just have a question. You know, I think about, and again, I'm a child of the 60s, so I can collect Social Security now. But when I was coming up, there were the male Black teachers that were very instrumental in keeping me in line. Not that I didn't respect or appreciate, the Black female teachers, but I noticed as I look around now, there seems to be very few Black male teachers from the K through 12 level. One, is that a correct observation? And two, what can we do to increase that? Because I think it's important that young Black boys see themselves in the classroom.
Absolutely, I think that's a great observation, Brother Keith. And I think, yeah, you've definitely seen that number decline. One of the programs that's out there that's really helping trying to recruit Black males, it's a program at Clemson University called They Call Me Mr. That's a program that's really been intentional about trying to recruit African Americans males into the classroom and to get them on board and participating as well. Anyone else have any thoughts or comments on what can be done to get more of those African Americans in the classroom as well? That's just one of the few programs I know about as well.
I would suggest that we have a systems approach. To your point, that is a reality. We do not have African American male teachers in our schools. And I think that as a society and as a community, we have not done a great job of welcoming teachers of color as a whole, but especially our Black male teachers. And so for our little Black boys, our scholars, it's rare that they see a Black male educator. And I think when you talk about, how do we approach it, it's about creating the community. So each of us have the opportunity within our own districts and our communities to start recruiting and making sure that we are fostering that opportunity and doing it in a whole kind of system-wide wraparound service approach. As a former classroom teacher, I know what it's like to be, the only teacher of color in buildings growing up in Minnesota and, now living in Michigan. That's a reality, and it's an isolating experience. I think that we have to do better about affinity groups and making sure that we have those supports so that teachers want to stay in the profession and that they are supported as they enter the profession. So if you think about, teachers usually leave the profession within the first 3 to 4 years of entering, and it's at a higher rate for teachers of color. And so making sure that we are having strong mentoring programs and resources that people know that they're appreciated. People stay where they feel welcome. Nobody stays where they don't feel welcome. And so we've got to be honest about that. But then also, as we work with building leadership, so building principals, making sure that they understand how are they connecting with their staff? How are they making sure that their staff feel connected? And if they are the one and only, how are they making sure that they feel valued and making sure that they're making those connections? And then also doing that recruiting of other teachers to make it not such a phenomenon that you might have one Black teacher or 2 Black teachers in the entire pre-K through 12 experience.
I think that's.
And last thing, and I'll shut up, Dr. Thompson, Dr. Tommy. I know a lot of parents have had to homeschool their kids as a result of COVID and what have you in the pandemic. Do you think that there's a greater appreciation, at least from parents now, who now they've had to see what teachers have to go through day in and day out? Do you think parents now greater appreciate the work of teachers?
That's a great question. Dr. Gore. Can't hear you, Dr. Gore.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I do believe that there is a greater appreciation for teachers now because during the pandemic, virtual school became very real for parents, right? Setting up those laptops, getting involved in really sharing the load of the teaching environment with your child at home, it became really real. And I had 4 different schools to interact with when it came to virtual school. And so I believe that the pandemic for sure gave us a better understanding of what our job is and how we can help the journey of teaching and not just send our children off to school like it's a babysitting environment, but really take this serious. And another thing, Dr. Watson, that I wanted to add is that communication is key, right? School systems send out a lot of emails to let the parent know or the guardian know what is happening, meetings, board meetings, so on and so forth. So many guardians and parents often ignore their emails. I was inundated with so many emails during COVID, but I took the time to read through those emails because number one, I have a voice and I wanted to be a part of speaking up on behalf of my child and as a parent. So I wanted to be in the know and show up to those board meetings at the school board, not just at the school, but down where the decisions are being made that affect every school system, every school. And as a parent, I believe that it is our duty to read the communications that are coming out via mail or via email. So I think we need to take the communication more serious as well when it involves the school system.
Brother Keith, excellent question. I love that question. Any other questions or comments at all?
Yeah,
like
Doc.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Just back to the first question about men in the school buildings. I just 2 things to offer. So one, when men are in the building, making sure that they're actually in positions where they're teaching students and engaging with scholars from an education standpoint, and not always being the dean of students where they're dealing with discipline, right? Because we don't want to associate the Black men with only discipline in the building, and that's not, and we're capable of doing more than that. So I'll say that first. Second thing is if I'm being all the way real, right? And that's what we're doing tonight, right? When you think about, and I have this conversation a lot actually, when you're a Black male and you're thinking about starting a family, you can't start a family on $35,000 a year. So what you're not doing is thinking about being a teacher. Right. I know plenty of engineers and professional brothers right now who would love to be teachers, but it doesn't equate to their quality of life. That being said, we have to be innovative, right? What do colleges do, right? One of our grading teaching sources in the community college system are adjunct professors. I think the P20, the entire pipeline needs to look at options to take advantage of that. Like I know engineers who work for companies that would give them community service release time to go teach in schools, right? And so I think we have to think outside of the box until we can truly address the major elephant in the room, which is salary. I don't think a teacher should start for less than $75,000 a year. But until we can get there, we've got to think outside of the box and be innovative.
I love that. That's excellent. I love that, Dr. Ross. Absolutely. Dr. Coleman.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Tommy, one thing to recruit Black teachers, especially Black males. The other thing is to put protections in place to ensure that they can stay there. Because the research shows that they don't just leave the system, they're driven out. And they're driven out because of policies, of seniority, all other kinds of issues that make them the last hired, the first buyer. So again, I'm back to addressing the system as a whole to say, why are they leaving? What are the barriers? And it's not just because they decide to leave. A lot of it is they're forced out and how they are received in, yes, certainly Black females as well. The research is very strong about this and how educators feel and the hurdles that they have to go over to get anywhere near tenure. In some states. We went through that same fight when I was in Minneapolis of having teachers of color programs and no protections for those teachers once they got in the classroom. So
great point. Appreciate it, Dr. Coleman. Brother Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, just quickly in terms of the role that community can play as well. With Brother Jeff's Cultural Center, we put together with Dr. Ross and many others what was called Black Men in Support of Education. And it's often difficult to go into those buildings alone, but we would do programming where we would bring in 25, 50, 100 or more Black men. And to go into a school system that hasn't seen Black men in a building was very transformative and very scary. So the relationship between community and the school building is also very important. What I wanted to do is ask Dr. Coleman a question though, because she had mentioned the system and the attack on public education. I certainly see that and believe that, and we have addressed it in certain ways locally in terms of school board elections, et cetera. But can you talk a little bit more about the impact of outside sources attacking public education and also pitting teachers against those outside forces as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just teachers, it's schools. It's pitting public education against charter school fights and, all of these things. And a lot of times when you look behind to say, who's engineering all of this? White males. And you say, what's their funding source? And you backtrack to see who's funding this, what's happening here. You see book publishers and people on certain sides of these arguments funding these kinds of things. Who's funding? Why did critical race theory all of a sudden become an issue? Look at who started it and start to understand why. These things are in place to separate us. This is an effort to destroy our history. Critical race theory helps to understand why America is as it is. Yeah. That's what it is. It's a very fact-based, well-documented way of looking at the American political system. Why wouldn't someone want the truth, right? Because it's not to their advantage. Right. So that's, to me, this is where all of us need to be fighting and advocating for our schools. You literally have white parents who saying, let's eradicate Black history, separate it totally. We don't need to talk about it. Do you know what that says? Do you know what that says to kids? I grew up in segregated America. I know what that feels like to not see myself in a history book, having to rely on my parents and the community to re-educate us beyond that textbook, because we weren't in that textbook. And that's what the revisionist history is. The revisionists are trying to do now, take us back to that time of where we didn't matter. Yeah. Otherwise, they're saying our kids don't matter, only their kids matter. That's right. That's right. So I just think it's a bigger discussion that we need to have. It doesn't mean we don't do all the other incredibly wonderful, powerful things that everyone has contributed tonight. Every bit of that is valuable and it needs to happen at every level, but we can't get ourselves pigeonholed into seeing this as just a school issue or a classroom issue. It's a bigger issue at play. That I just think we need to be aware of what's happening, and then use our power, come together as a community to start speaking out about this.
Very well said, Eleanor. I love it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that we talk a lot in the work that Eleanor and I do about the hidden narratives. There's a hidden narrative that people don't want to be told in America. There's a benefit to a large group of Americans having the narrative that they simply worked hard and their people are smarter than everyone else. That benefits another group of people. But we start talking about critical race, you start saying, oh, maybe you really didn't work as hard as you said you did. You actually did some stealing, some killing and destroying and enslaving some people. That probably helped you get a little further. That helped you get a lot further anyhow. So that's a narrative that a lot of people don't want to be told as well. But it's unfortunate, but it's history, it's just the truth as well. Are there any other questions as we better wrap things up before I go to the last thoughts on our panelists? Any questions out there, Carrie, you seeing? Or any panelists, any questions at all? Great question, Brother Jeff. Okay, I don't see there's any questions. I'm going to move to, I'm going to go from my screen. Brother Jeff, any quick closing thoughts, last words?
There was a time when this was an illegal gathering, and for the very reasons of what it has produced, and it has energized me to just hear you all and know that, you know, the work continues, the energy is still there. And if we stand tall, it's because we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. I just want to thank you, Dr. Watson, and all of you all for sharing. And I'm going to take away a lot from this conversation and implement it in my walk in this part of the country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Dr. Webb, go ahead.
It was a pleasure to be here amongst all of you. Thank you for everything that you contributed, especially our students. Wish you the best in all your endeavors and continue to be those role models in the classrooms, because I can tell that you are. You're who we show up for every day. Kudos to everybody and good luck with the rest of the school year.
Awesome, thank you. Dr. Roby.
I want to applaud our scholars first and foremost, because you are showing that you have agency and voice, and the work that all of us are doing, it's on your behalf, because as Brother Jeff said, we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors. You are hopefully going to stand on our shoulders, and we need to pave that pathway so that your generation does not have to advocate as we are advocating. And it doesn't mean that the work does not continue, but it's making sure that we're doing the right work so that you have always voice and always agency. And I thank all of the participants this evening. I have learned a lot, and I've just enjoyed just listening to all of you as you are sharing your experiences. And again, blessings as we close out the 21-22 school year.
Absolutely. Dr. Keith Weiss.
Hey, thank you so much. I'll just, really dovetail what Ms. Eleanor Coleman said. It's a lot bigger than just what we're talking about tonight. I was a part of a debate with Newsweek magazine recently over the need of Black History Month. Do we need to still have it? Do we need to even celebrate it anymore? Sadly, one of the folks I was debating was a young Black millennial who was basically saying we don't need it. But, I was taught that, basically those who don't know their history are doomed to repeat it. So just, keep in mind that there's a lot more at play than just what we're seeing in school. That's just a microcosm of what's happening really in all of America.
Yeah. That's right. Very well said. Reverend Stoops, last words, please. I'll come back to Reverend Stoops. Dr. Gore, go ahead. There he is. Reverend Stoops, go ahead.
I just like I've enjoyed I'm evening and to one had say I'm praying for you guys, different I believe we can do this good enough thing to have a conversation, and know what's really out there and know so we can move forward. I'm just like brothers Jeff and so many on this call. You got to know your history. You just got to know. That's true to it.
Thank you very much, Reverend Stoops. Dr. Sienna, we'll give you the doctor's degree. Last words.
Well, my last words are thank you for all the information that you guys have given about the schools and what's happening in our communities as well. So I will totally take into account, so always make sure I appreciate my teachers when I go into school, and to just, have the teacher and student relationship bond and let them know that I'm there and that they can be there for me no matter what throughout the school, either in school or outside of school in our communities. So thank you.
I loved it. Thank you very much. Very well said. Mayor Mike Elliott, last words.
All right. So, this evening has been just so great taking part in this conversation that I think is very timely And, I'm hopefully looking forward to more of these types of conversations. But just to echo what everyone said, the issues facing our community, are multifaceted, and the solutions have to be as well. So we really have to be making sure that we're working on all fronts, from the city, looking at resources, how those resources are allocated, and then making sure that our teachers have the support that they need to help our young people thrive in school as well. So kudos to you, Dr. Watson, for hosting this conversation. And, I hope that this is many, many more to come.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Gore, go ahead, please.
I just wanted to say thank you so much, Dr. Watson, for having me. This has been a great panel discussion on a much needed topic. But as we move forward in life, let's continue to be change agents. Let's continue to make a difference by our actions versus to just talking about it. I believe that we have to get our hands dirty. We have to be willing to go out and plow and do the work so that we can continue to make a change. God bless you all.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Gore. Dr. Burt, go ahead.
Well, yeah, thank you for inviting me to be part of this amazing panel. Sienna, I need like 30 of you. You are amazing. I love celebrating students. I actually had a major celebration today for students, so I definitely love celebrating students. So keep pushing. I hope you have an amazing school year, you and Kennedy as well. Be that change agent, as Dr. Gore said, go out to be that change in the world that you want to see. Thinking back to the title, The Great Teacher Resignation, and what we can do as educators. And I will say, you can talk to any staff that I've ever had, is love on your staff and get to know your staff, build those relationships with staff, build the relationships with students, because students they will do whatever you want them to do when they know that you love and you care for them. Making sure that you support your teachers, that you're growing teachers, and make sure that you're looking at those salaries. It's we increase salaries and we give those increases, but at the end of the day, that only eases a small bit of the pain. So what are those real reasons that teachers are resigning? And are we having those touch points? Are we doing temperature checks throughout the school year? Are we reading our building, or are we just sitting in our office and doing compliance? I'm not the one to do compliance, and my supervisor will tell you, yeah, I'll do that when I get home, but because I need to be in the hallways, I need to be in the classrooms, I need to be talking to students, I need to be talking to parents. So that's what the most of our day is spent doing, just that. So at the end of the day, I know that my teachers aren't going to leave because they know I'm there to support them. So just make sure that you do those temperature checks on your staff and you are able to read your building and that you know your teachers.
Awesome. Thank you. Very well said. Dr. Kennedy, last words, Dr. Kennedy.
Agreeing with what Sienna said, I'll take my teachers and other staff with a warm embrace.
Awesome. I love it. Dr. Coleman, last words.
I just want to say each and every one of you has blessed me tonight. It's been an absolute joy. Please continue doing what you're doing in every phase of this, wherever you are. It's your ministry, and I hear that and I feel the passion in this room. And let's keep the kids close.
Absolutely.
Let's keep the kids first.
Absolutely. Dr. Starr, last words, please.
I am full tonight, and I want to thank you for the opportunity to allow me to come and just share. But I want to say to the scholars, continue to be the standard for those that are, watching you each and every day. Continue to use your voice for those. And to each of the panelists, I am in awe just at all of the information. This town hall has allowed me, well, it has rejuvenated me to continue to grow as a leader, as an administrator, to be a voice for our scholars, a voice for our teachers, and also continue to champion and encourage and create a space of aspiration and advocacy. So I am really looking forward to moving forward, and I look forward to connecting with you all.
Awesome, thank you. Dr. Ross, last words.
Yes, first to Sienna and Kennedy, thank you guys so much. Just tremendous. If you guys come to Colorado, you know, man, I'll make sure you get some scholarships. So you can keep my information. It's in the chat, and consider a letter of recommendation on your behalf for me already done, because you've displayed that you deserve that. To everybody else, thank you for sharing the space. It's dope to be able to be in this venue with you all from across the country having this really important conversation. I think it's a start. I hope you go back to your respective campuses and schools and continue the conversation. And just remember, you know, to flex your purpose and not let the oppressive powers, you know, get in your way. But it's all about your purpose. So I appreciate you all and hope to stay in touch with you.
Awesome, very well said, Dr. Ross. Dr. Harvey, go ahead.
Just want to thanks for inviting me out here tonight, Dr. Watson. It was a great discussion, a great panel. Appreciate everybody pouring into me and fulfilling my soul tonight. It's some things I'm going to definitely take back to my community and my school, as in regards to appreciate the teachers and the administrators at the local high school I graduated from, that I'm coaching at. But I also want to just say this to all the people here tonight that do great things in the community. Remember self-care. We pour in a lot of our time, our passion, our efforts, but we also have to manage our self-care, knowing that, hey, somebody needs to pour into us. If it's somebody you can talk to, or things you can do to relax, get that self-care so you do not get burnt out doing this work. We all know it happens. And as African Americans, we have to take care of ourselves. And like I tell my student athletes, we all we got, but that's all we need. So, hey, you guys were great tonight. I appreciate you guys. And Sienna and Kennedy continue to dare to be different. Dare to be different. That's one of the things my mother taught me. May she rest in peace. But I carry that motto with me, and I try to preach it to my kids. Dare to be different. Don't be like everybody else, and good things will happen. But again, thanks, panel. It was great.
Very well said. Dr. Jackson, go ahead. Last words, please.
I'm not sure why I can't turn on my camera, so sorry about that. Thank you guys for this discussion. Thank you, Dr. Watson, for inviting me. I appreciated all of the different perspectives. And I just want to say kudos to those administrators who are out there supporting the teachers, who are stepping in and getting in the trenches with us and not forgetting what it was like to be in the classroom. It is encouraging. It's going to keep me going the next few years until I'm able to retire in a few years. So to the students, Sienna and Kennedy, thank you for being mature and understanding what it is to be that model student, because I can see that you all are model students to be here tonight speaking with us, with educators. Kudos to your parents. They're raising you well. And thank you so much.
Awesome, very well said. Dr. Walker, Dr. Siobhan Walker, you out there?
I'm here, and Jamela has already said that I will be Dr. Walker one day.
That's what I'm talking about. Smart young lady.
This has been a great panel, and I'm glad to share information with so many different educators from around the U.S. We just have to get out there and we have to do what we know how to do best and keep it moving. We got kids to educate and to prepare for the future. So that's what we do.
I love it. Very well said. Hey, Julie Pounce, are you able to talk at all? I want to give you a chance to say last words if you can. I think you're having some problems talking. Okay. Let me go to two people who were absolutely, this cannot be done without an amazing team of folks. I want to start with Kara Braxton. Kara Braxton is my assistant. Kara, any last words? I know I'm putting her on Front Street. She hates participating, but Kara, any last words? She's a mother of 4 kids, amazing mom. Any last words, Kara? She's probably taking care of those 4 kids now.
Oh, I just want to say thank you to everyone for coming on and joining us this evening and sharing some wonderful words of wisdom and insights. You guys brought some things to my attention that I didn't even think about. But thank you so much. We could not have put on this wonderful event without you.
Very well said, Dr. Kara. Dr. Anita Lane, who also has four children as well. Something about that number 4.
Yes, thank you so much. Each of you, I just want to say thank you. This was so informational. My only regret is that we didn't have, 20,000 people on this call in the audience. We will have to do this again in some form or fashion because what each of you shared was so critical. And these are the kind of conversations that need to happen, across the country over and over and over again until everyone hears it. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you very much. God bless each of you.
Awesome. And this has been amazing for me as well. I called on people that I knew, and you guys all stepped to the plate. I knew you guys could do it, and it's absolutely amazing. And you're doing amazing work. Let's continue doing the work. Please put your email address in the chat box, everyone here, because I want us to stay connected. And each of us needs to utilize the power in which we get from each other going forward. So again, I appreciate everyone here. Put your email in there. We'll stick around if you have any other questions or anything else though, but God bless everyone. And let me just mention this real quick. There's a special connection I have to each and every one of you. Our brother Jeff is a guy who grew up in my neighborhood, led our neighborhood for many years. Ryan, I set the tone for him to go to my high school. Mike connected there. Rosie, her brother and I play football together. I mean, you guys are just absolutely amazing. And it talks to the power of relationships. You never know how a small relationship may fester into something greater later on in the future. So let's all stay connected because this might be a starting point for us all to continue to do great work together as well. And each of you are doing many of the same things. So again, collaborate, and it takes a team effort to do what we're doing here. So God bless, peace, much love, everyone. See you soon. Go Broncos, right?
Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a great night.
Bye.